So I don't like spending money on anything that I don't have to. And I started my identity theft protection journey by wondering if there was a version of this process where I could do this stuff myself. And I was super annoyed to find out that the answer was effectively, no, you cannot. So I spent a while wondering what the best identity theft protection service is, and if you only make it this far in the video, the actual answer is Aura. But let's take a look at some of the other products in the market, because there's definitely a sense that LifeLock is the more well-known name in the space, and there's also a heavy mix of people who assume that they can just do this process themselves. And look, I don't want to be paying for identity theft protection services any more than the next guy, but really, as an adult in the year 2025, it's just one of those services that you will have to get used to. And ideally, you're going to be signing up for the one that is the least annoying to use and actually offers the coverage that it promises. And from my experience, this is the one that does that. The number one reason for this is that Aura is by far the most cost-effective of all identity theft protection services, and let me explain exactly why. In order to offer what is actual identity theft protection coverage, you need to monitor all three credit bureaus, because this is the number one way in which your identity can be stolen. And if you don't monitor all three, you're effectively not offering a credit monitoring service. Now, with Aura's competitors, you will see pricing tiers that are lower than Aura's basic package, and I'll get to that in a moment. But here's the thing. The second you start reading any of that fine print, those same packages will offer only one bureau of credit monitoring. But that's where Aura structures things a little bit differently. Not only is it the most cost-effective when you start going through those three bureau protection plans, but the fact that they don't even structure it around the number of bureaus that they offer is the main reason why you know they're a company with a philosophy that makes sense within the space. They genuinely don't even offer plans per se. You just pay for the number of people you want to be covered under your plan. So that's genuinely why I feel like they're one of the better companies to work with in the space, and not just another company that's trying to nickel and dime you to pay for services that you don't need. Now, like a lot of competitors, they do offer bundled packages, which aren't necessarily the best parts of their service, like a VPN and a password manager. They do offer additional services like parental controls, but if you just find that you're signing up for the identity theft protection service, you're not going to get these things heavily pushed on you as you try to use that service. So a perfect example of this, I signed up for Aura and a competitor on camera and filmed myself making a phone call to their customer service representatives. Aura picked up right away, and the guy on the other end and I actually had a pleasant little conversation because the answer to the question that I asked was kind of obvious. So we had like a nice little giggle and then just hung up. It was actually a pretty pleasant 2-minute phone call, wasn't that bad. I asked the exact same question to one of their competitors, and while he was able to provide me with the right answer, the very next thing he did was try to sell me on an upgrade to one of the services, because of course he did. I get the sense that it's actually a more efficiently run company, because if you're including all of the services you offer into one bundle and you don't need to really push to upsell people, then your only incentive is to make sure that your company is operating the best way to actually protect people. I might have some mild interface complaints. It is a little weird that they have something called an activity feed on their homepage. It's designed to look like a social media feed where it just shows you your most recent alerts, but in order to actually do anything, you're going to have to navigate through their hamburger menu. Yeah, it's not a deal breaker, but it's not the most intuitively designed product, and it's just that the product is designed to actually do its job when it comes to identity theft monitoring. Philosophically, I feel like it has the core values of what ID theft monitoring should be built into how it's designed, especially with that pricing structure, but also in the services that it offers. When I signed up for Aura as well as its competitors, it found way more instances of my information on the dark web and, without prompting, started an automatic data broker removal process that just worked in the background for the first few hours that I had the service. And look, this stuff matters more than you might think. Data brokers are these companies that collect your personal information, your address, phone number, family members, purchase history. Then it sells that to whoever wants to buy it. Marketers, scammers, identity thieves, you name it. Getting your information removed from these sites is tedious as hell if you try to do it manually, but it's crucial for your privacy. The fact that Aura automatically handles this process in the background while their competitors either don't do it at all or make you jump through hoops to get it done, that's a real difference in value. When you think about it, most Most of these services are built around the subscription model trap. Hook you in with a low price, then nickel and dime you with upgrades and add-ons. But when a company's business model is based on actually protecting you rather than extracting maximum revenue per customer, the incentives align better. Aura seems to have figured out that if they just charge a fair price up front and include everything you actually need, they can build a sustainable business without resorting to the typical subscription service shenanigans. And this matters because the identity theft protection space is honestly kind of a mess. You've got companies spending massive amounts on marketing and Super Bowl ads, but when you actually dig into what they're offering, it's often less comprehensive than what you get with Aura for a similar or even higher price. Then you've got a bunch of smaller players who compete mainly on price, but they're cutting corners on the actual protection. It's like the classic good, fast, cheap, pick two problem, except in this case, if you pick cheap, you're potentially leaving yourself vulnerable to identity theft, which can cost you way more in the long run. Because here's the thing about identity theft, it's not just about the money. Yeah, you might eventually get fraudulent charges reversed, but the process is a nightmare. You're spending hours on the phone with banks, credit agencies, and law enforcement. You're filling out forms, providing documentation, and basically having to prove that you are who you say you are. And during all this, your credit might be frozen. You might not be able to make purchases or apply for loans, and you're basically living in financial limbo until everything else gets sorted out. That's why, in addition to scamming, Aura has their $1 million insurance policy with broad coverage for things like time off, lawyers, and stolen funds. The stress and time cost of dealing with identity theft can be enormous, even if you don't lose money in the end. So when I'm evaluating these services, I'm not just looking at the monthly cost. I'm looking at which one is actually going to prevent me from having to go through that nightmare in the first place. Given that reality, Aura is the service that actually does what it says it's going to do at a price that makes sense, without trying to trick you into paying for stuff you don't need. Is it perfect? No. The interface could be better and some of the bundled features aren't best in class, but as an identity theft protection service, which is what you're actually paying for, it works, it's comprehensive, and it doesn't try to scam you. And honestly, in this space, that's about as good as it gets. If you want to try it out, there's a link in the description. And if you've had an experience with Aura or any other identity theft protection service, let me know in the comments. Because this stuff affects all of us. And the more we can share about what actually works, the better off we'll all be.